Good evening, folks, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting and Committee of the Whole meeting. Tonight's City Council meeting is called to order. I kindly ask our clerk to please take the roll call.
Bowering?
Here.
Bruno?
Here.
Ruby?
Here.
Kilberg?
Here.
Kasserag? Maladra?
Here.
Marks?
Here.
Mayor?
Here.
Paschke?
Here.
Swanson?
Here. Our City Council meetings are always begun with the Pledge of Allegiance, and tonight I have the honor of asking Mr. Bruno to lead us in the pledge, not only because he's a distinguished member of this committee, but tomorrow he celebrates a birthday.
Happy birthday, Mike.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Any big plans for tomorrow?
Prepping for surgery the next day.
Good God. This is not a HIPAA violation. Let's not. Good Lord. Well, we can bring you something. We can take turns bringing something over. Actually, no, we can't, but I was just being nice. Before we jump into business, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to ask publicly, for everyone's benefit and in the spirit of creating an inclusive and welcoming and belonging environment, as we proceed in the new fiscal year, and we have discussions here at this dais for the community to witness and for those in attendance to participate, I would like to make certain that I and the chairperson of the Committee of the Whole are referring to all of you as you wish to be referred to. So I will go by first ward on this side, then over, and to ask, do you prefer alderman, alderwoman, or alderperson?
Alderperson.
Alderperson. Mr. Marks?
Person is fine, make it.
Ms. Ruby?
Alderperson, please.
Yeah, I'll be a person.
Mr. Bruno?
Person, thanks.
Mr. Kilberg? Ms. Mayor?
Alderperson.
Mr. Swanson?
Person.
There you go. Okay, fantastic. We begin tonight, ladies and gentlemen, with item 3A, and that is to proclaim Safe Boating Week in the city of Geneva. I'd like a motion and a second on that, and then I'm going to introduce a special guest. So moved. Mr. Marks, Alderperson Marks makes the motion, Alderperson Mayor makes the second, and it's my pleasure to introduce Commander DiMartelli from Aurora. Commander, come on up and join us. The commander said to me earlier, listen, we're the volunteers from the Coast Guard, but man, they put pressure on us to get these proclamations. So with that pressure, sir, you get to address the council. I have the proclamation here. It has been signed. We know how important this is to you and the Coast Guard, and we are in the season now. So the floor is yours if you'd like to provide any insight, wisdom, advice.
Thank you, Mayor Person.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I'm trying to fit in here.
You're doing a heck of a job.
Okay. Here's the text of the proclamation, and we do this around the country for the last week in May, and that's when boating season in the northern latitudes begins. For over 100 million Americans, boating continues to be a popular recreational activity from coast to coast and everywhere in between. People are taking to the water and enjoying time together, boating, sailing, paddling, and fishing. During National Safe Boating Week, the United States Coast Guard and its federal, state, and local safe boating partners encourage all boaters to explore and enjoy America's beautiful waterway. And if you'll excuse me for a moment, here is one of the things that, are there any boaters in here?
Look at that.
Here is one of the things with which we would like you to enjoy. It doesn't fit with, what? Here is one of the things with which we would like you to enjoy the water. This is mine. It is not the one we use for Coast Guard missions. This is the one I use for sailing or racing on Lake Michigan, like in the Mac. Yes. And safe boating begins with preparation. The Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most fatalities through basic boating safety procedures, carrying life-saving emergency distress and communications equipment. I didn't bring my radio. Wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, and we teach about a dozen safe boating courses. In free boating safety checks, Friday we did 88 boats on the rental boats at Potawatomi, at Shabana, pardon me.
Lake Shabana?
Yeah,
Yes.
Lake Shabana.
Right out, beautiful Route 30.
Yes. And staying sober when navigating. And the word navigating means getting from one place to another safely and on time. We can help ensure boaters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore water stay safe throughout the season. National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring attention to important life-saving tips for recreational boaters, that we may have a safer and more fun experience out of the water throughout the year. And here comes the part written by our legal department. Whereas an average of 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the U.S., 75% of these fatalities occurred by drowning. And whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error and poor judgment, and not by boat equipment or environmental factors. And whereas the significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today if they had worn their life jackets. Therefore, this is the part that you have in front of you, Mayor.
Yes, it is.
And we ask that you put this to a vote, and I think you already have declared.
We just offered a motion and a second, so we wanted to hear from you first prior to considering a vote. Because if
Okay.
you mess this up, Commander, it could be dicey, man.
Gosh, that makes the fourth time today. Let's see, where was I?
At the last paragraph.
I'm not going to read that. That's in your name, and I think you should read it. But let me make a comment or two
Please do.
about the auxiliary. We are the volunteer side of the Coast Guard, and as you may have already observed, we have no age limit.
Are you a veteran, sir?
Depends on how you look at it. I was 8 years in the Air Force Reserve.
I think that we look at that very fondly. Thank you.
Well, I didn't.
You know this is being live broadcast, by the way. so-
Yeah, by the way, if you want to raise your right hand, we can enroll you in the auxiliary right now.
Oh, my gosh.
That's about all I think I care to say. I noticed as I was coming up here that we do have a couple of boaters in the back room, in the back of the room, and I didn't see anybody in the front jump up and say, "Yeah, I'm a boater." Well, I'm a boater, but I don't like power boats. I sail.
Now, you sailed in the Mac,
I have.
and what was your highest finish?
I wrote the ballad.
How often have you sailed in the Mac?
I sailed in the Mac, I think, 3 times,
Wow.
and sailed the Mac back. I crewed on a boat out of St. Charles, and it was a good boat and very fast. And guys from all over the country would come and bump me.
No, well, that's St. Charles for you, man.
So I would do,
Wow,
I would do, I would do the Mac back.
you would.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so that was pretty good.
And everyone's familiar with the race to Mackinac? Pretty impressive.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So, with that, I will let you go to the motion
You got it.
and then get to business.
This motion is to proclaim May the 20th through the 26th, 2023 as National Safe Boating Week in the city of Geneva. We have a motion. We have a second. A voice vote is sufficient. All in favor of so proclaiming, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Look at that. Can I get a photo with you, Commander?
You can?
You probably got 8x10s in the car you hand out, right? No comment. I like that. That's good. Let's come up here. It's always good to get the city attorney back in case things go awry. That's the very first internet court. Well, here it is. What's your better side? I think this one is. Your wife. How long have you been married? Since 1963. Isn't that good at math? 60 years. When's the wedding anniversary? August 10th. I'll lower the flag for you. Come over here, big guy. We're going to get a nice picture. Now, check this out. This is our city administrator, Ms. Dawkins.
How do you do, Ms. Dawkins?
Me? Okay, got it. Thanks.
We're coming to your house August 10th.
Okay.
Take us out on the boat.
I'll take you out onto the port. It used to be a port, but it had a wall all the way around it.
Did you get a permit for what you did?
But it's not a porch and it's not a patio, so it's important.
Sounds highly illegal, but I'm impressed. And that's for you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stick around, it's going to get more exciting.
I've been active in politics.
Well, hold on now, before you say anything disparaging, it's his birthday tomorrow.
Happy birthday. You gave me your first name. You're Bruno. Happy birthday, Bruno.
Thank you, Commander. Be good, okay?
Yes.
Be good.
Okay.
And speed to the town, we need the revenue.
Okay.
Thank you again, Commander, for treating us to your company. That was nice. Item 3B, ladies and gentlemen, proclaim June 2nd, 2023 as Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Geneva. We do have a proclamation, of course. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Bruno, seconded by Alderperson Bowring. Excuse me.
Got it.
Is there anyone who would like to say a few words about this? Because we have a nice delegation this evening. We're delighted you're here. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good, how are you?
Good. Welcome. How are you going to beat the boating thing?
I'm not even gonna try, it's not even like on the list. All right, thank you, Mayor Burns and council members. The first weekend in June, we wear orange to unite in the work of ending gun violence. Each day, 120 people are killed with guns, and guns are currently the leading cause of death for U.S. children and teens. We honor survivors with action, and calling attention to this public health crisis is one of the ways to show support. On behalf of the Kane and Kendall County Moms Demand Action Group, I want to thank you all for bringing awareness to an issue that impacts us all. We should have the ability and opportunity to go to the grocery store, the movies, the mall, or school without the threat of gun violence.
Well said. Anyone from the dais care to add anything? We have a motion We have a second. All in favor of so proclaiming June the 2nd, 2023 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day here in the city of Geneva, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's so cool to have everybody here, too. Do we get a photo, Steve, except for you?
Best mom we have.
Steve is a,
I'll go boating today.
Rachel, I'm going to invite you up next. Is that okay? Okay.
Where are you going?
I just hold this.
One second. Try and get a couple. All right. Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's now my pleasure to invite my friend Rachel to join us. We understand, Rachel, you'd like to say a few things, and we're delighted that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts.
Of course.
And I'm really glad to see everyone here today. In the spirit of awareness and action, I wanted to share a few words today to raise our awareness about some things that I don't often see in the gun conversation. As you heard, as of 2022, guns are now the leading cause of death for children and teens. At the same time, in 2020 and 2021, the American gun industry saw its highest sales in world history. And I don't think that's a coincidence. My 5-year-old is about to enter kindergarten, and she will go and have to go through drills to learn how to protect herself from a shooter. And I don't know how you explain to a room of kindergartens how to prepare for that type of threat, because I don't know how to explain it to a room of adults or how to reconcile it with myself. I'm not just a mom, though. I run a marketing company, and this is the part that I wanted to share with you, because I started down this rabbit hole of learning more about how we arrived at this moment, this public health crisis, as was mentioned earlier today. And I learned that so much of what we think is the way things have always been in this country when it comes to gun culture were actually largely influenced by marketing campaigns. Since the turn of the 20th century, the gun industry has been glamorizing, romanticizing guns with a specific focus on youth. And this has picked up speed in the last 20 years, and there's no signs of slowing down. So this is part of the answer to the question, why would a young person turn 18 and immediately go purchase a weapon and commit an act of mass violence? Just as tobacco companies developed cartoon mascots in the 80s and 90s to prime kids to become replacement smokers for the market that they were losing to death, gun makers today are grooming youth to become the next generation of avid gun lovers. So a few of the things that they're doing is partnering with kidfluencers, child influencers, not even teens, sending free guns to kids to post on their social media accounts, hosting events where children are invited to test out assault weapons, developing guns like the We-1 tactical rifle specifically made for children as young as 2 or 3 years old, with skull and crossbones cartoon mascots with slogans like, looks, feels, and operates just like mom and dad's gun. In 1996, Marion Hammer, who was the former NRA convention president, or NRA president, said to the convention in favor of investing in changing children's attitudes about guns, "We are in an old-fashioned wrestling match for the hearts and minds of our children, and we'd better engage our adversaries with no holds barred." I agree, we are fighting for the hearts and minds and the lives and safety of our children, but right now the gun industry is winning while children lose their lives. Child and teen gun-related deaths have increased by over 50% in the last 2 years, and I'm wrapping up. In 2019, the American Association of Pediatrics published a report that 1 in 18 high school students brings a gun to school. We often think that gun violence happens in other communities, somewhere else, somewhere far away, but we saw in Highland Park last year that that is just not true, and we see it every day. The conversation around guns in this country is often fixed on the same talking points. We're talking in circles around each other while gun violence continues to get worse. So I think we have to have a different conversation with each other, with our kids, with our lawmakers, and that's why I'm here. Thank you for having me. I'd like to challenge every person in this room to continue expanding their awareness beyond the talking points about how we became a gun culture like this. The Gunning of America is a book by Pamela Haag, and it's a great place to start. If you want to take action, we have organizations like Moms Demand Action that you can participate in. And also, I will be joining 25,000 plus moms in Denver on June 5th for the Here for the Kids action for a peaceful, nonviolent, direct action to demand that the governor of Colorado bans guns and buys them back. Yes, we know it's radical, and we believe it's time to take radical action to protect the lives of our children. What I know is that we can't do nothing. I think it's time to turn our thoughts and prayers and turn them into action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, item 3C is to proclaim June 2023 as Pride Month in the city of Geneva. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Alderperson Patchke, seconded by Alderperson Bowring. Good, why do I stumble?
Just nerves.
Is it just nerves? Clearly. Any questions? Any comments that wish to be made? Good to see you.
Mayor Burns, our good friend. I wanted to take a moment and speak to you all about the importance of this, especially right now with the climate, and our country is unfortunately targeting kids, and that's really not a great thing. All of us know that. We've talked about it already today. Queer youth, when they're able to see that their community supports them and creates a safe space for them, when they might not have it at home, when they're seeing things on TV, when they know that friends in a pen pal in a different state is dealing with something much harder than they're dealing with, when they see that the community they live in sees them, creates a space for them, and recognizes the challenges that they face. So I'm with Belong Fox Valley with all the other rainbow folks in the crowd here, and we wanted to especially thank you, Mayor Burns. You've been so supportive of all the work that we've done to try to bring the community together with the recognition of, we lovingly refer to the Prydrant, if you're familiar with Prydrant, right? The Art on Fire, fire hydrant, excuse me. So thank you for the support we've already received, but the kids aren't here, so I want to talk for the kids, because I was that kid that didn't get seen and didn't have the support of my family and my community. And so the simple act of raising the flag, saying you exist, this month is important, can save lives. So thank you for taking the time to consider.
Thank you. Alderperson Ruby?
Thank you. I just wanted to share a few thoughts on this topic. Both of these topics we've just discussed are so overwhelming, and I feel desperate to do something and helpless, not knowing where to begin because it's such a massive thing and it's so much bigger than any one of us. So along those lines, I'm going to break it down to something very tiny, and I just want to quote a little bit of a Forbes article on pronouns. So the title is, Should You Put Pronouns in Email Signatures and Social Media Bios? It was written in June 19th of 2019 from Forbes. I'm just going to briefly quote a few lines. Including pronouns in your email signature and social media profiles is an important move towards inclusivity. It shows you care about individual preferences and is a simple solution to accidental misgendering. Want to know what someone's pronouns are? Thankfully, there's a really easy way to find out. Just ask, what pronouns do you use? Everyone's gender identity and gender expression are on a spectrum. Understanding this is a vital part of being a trans ally and should be part and parcel of including pronouns in your signature. All of this may sound like an unnecessary level of woke. However, on a deeper level, changes like this lead to powerful cultural shifts. So I we'll end there on the article. I feel this is something simple and something easy that all of us can do today, right now, and it'll give us a little sliver of hope towards something better for the future. I would ask all my council members to please add your pronouns to your email signatures, and if the city employees are willing to follow suit as well, our DEI council or task force just hosted an inclusive language session last week. So I think it makes sense, it fits, the time is right, why wait? And the sooner we do it, the more normal it will be for everybody. It won't seem strange. I know when I started doing it initially, I was a little hesitant. It felt odd to me, and now I don't give it a second thought. So I encourage you all to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have a motion. We have a second to so proclaim June 2023 as Pride Month in the city of Geneva. A voice vote is sufficient. All in favor of so proclaiming, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Unanimous. Photo op time? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Right, why, you want one?
How are you?
Good to see you. Everything good?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You? Good.
No comment.
Scoot just a little bit. Look like you belong together. And I've got 2 cameras, so just give me, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. And one more. Okay. Great, thank you.
Boy, you have it down pat. Grab the proclamation and walk out. I know, I'm teasing. Item 3D, ladies and gentlemen. Consider mayor's appointments and reappointments to city boards and commissions. Is there a motion? Alderperson Marks makes the motion. Seconded by Alderperson Mayer. Any questions, any comments? A special thanks to all who continue to serve. We appreciate it very much, and I know the community benefits from your service. With that, let's take a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Marks?
Aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
Paschke?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bowring?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Yeah, way to go. With 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent, those members of the boards and commissions have been reappointed. Thank you all very, very much. Item 4, amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments this evening? Item 5 is the omnibus agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are considered to be routine by this city council, and those items can be enacted with 1 motion. Is there such a motion? So moved. Alderperson Marks, Alderperson Swanson. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Marks?
Aye.
Mayor? Aye. Paschke?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bowring?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
With a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 absent, the omnibus agenda has been approved by this city council. Item 7, reports, May revenue, okay, ba-ba-ba-boo-ba-ba. Number 10, municipal bills for payment. Madam Clerk, kindly read the bills in their aggregate for our consideration, and then we will ask the birthday boy to work his magic.
All right. Total expenditures are $4,971,202.03.
Mayor, I move that we approve and pay the bills as read. The individual items that add up to that amount can be found in tonight's city council packet on the city website.
Alderperson Bruno makes the motion to approve the bills as presented, which are also available in the council members' packets and on the city's website. Is there a second? Alderperson Mayor makes the second. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Paschke,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bowering.
Aye.
With a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 absent, the bills have been approved for payment. We jump to item 13, folks, new business, public comment. Public comment will take first. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak, please join us at the podium. Just share with us your name, and we look forward to hearing your remarks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jay Rule. I live at 2307 Clover Lane in Geneva, I believe the 4th Ward. Give you a little background about me. I've lived in Geneva for 40-plus years. My wife is born and raised here. Her father was a 1st Ward alderman here during Mayor Wood's time. So we're very familiar with town here. As I reminded Mr. Mayor earlier, he and I shared on the Geneva Community Chess Board many years ago.
I think one more minute.
It had to be 30 years. 30
Wasn't
years,
that something?
30 years ago.
Yeah, at least.
The reason I'm here tonight is that on November 5th, 22, at 8:05 a.m. in the morning, a 40-year-old locust tree on the city parkway broke off at its base, which was rotten, and fell on my house. I have pictures if anybody is interested, but we can look at that anytime. On its way down, it sideswiped a tree in my front yard, a maple tree that was also 40 years old. And we were not home at the time. Our neighbor called and told us of the incident. We called since it was a Saturday, we called the non-emergency police number. A police officer was dispatched immediately, came to the house, called my wife on the phone, and spent about 15 minutes going over the situation with her, gave her the police report number, said he would call city services to come out and clean up the tree. Later that morning, city crews did come. They did about an 80% cleanup since it was a Saturday, and they had some other work to do, but they got the tree off my house, they got the sidewalk cleared, they returned the following Monday and finished the job. When I returned home, I called Nate Landers at City Services, and he asked me to fill out an incident report, which I did. Well, let me back up a minute. Back up to the cleanup crew and the police officers. I've got nothing but praise for those groups. They acted immediately, responded immediately, and did a bang-up job. They really did. Anyway, Nate asked me to fill out the form, which I did. I submitted that form on November 13th, and was informed a week later that I needed to find quotes for the repairs to my house. Okay, I took it back. Took me about 2 weeks to assemble those quotes. Turned it back in. Lose my place here. In the meantime, the city did return, ground up the stump, cleaned up that mess, and about a week later they came and cleaned all that up, redirded the area, and seeded it. So again, they did a fantastic job. At this point, we're into December. I'm getting a little frustrated with this whole thing. I asked for a meeting with a city official, which was Ben McCready, who I see is not here tonight. I did meet with Ben on December 8th. Not much became of that meeting because Ben didn't feel he was in any position to say yay or nay to my claim, and it was up to your insurance administrator, Argonaut Sedgwick. Now, I don't know if you guys are self-insured and they administer for you or what. I really don't know. But anyway, but he was not in a position to resolve anything. The next day I received a phone call from Sedgwick denying my claim. three reasons for the denial. First was act of God. I don't really want to bring religion into this, but what isn't an act of God if that's what you're going to use for an excuse? And on top of that, if everything's an act of God, they'd never have to pay a claim, would they? Because basically everything is, if you're going to say that. So I really chuckled at that. Number two was, it was a windy day. Yes, it was. The tree had already shed its leaves for the year, so there's not any major wind resistance there. If the tree was in good shape, it would not have broke off at its base, it would have uprooted. Which brings me to point 3. Sedgwick says the tree was in good condition. Anybody looking at the pictures, which they obviously did not, could see that the tree was rotten at its base. I asked the question, how did you come to that determination? And he said, well, we did a survey within the last 5 years. 5 years ago, the tree was in good condition. So those are the 3 reasons they denied my claim. I also point out that at this point, we're into January now. Not one city official ever came to my house, looked at the situation, talked to me about it, other than Nate, who asked me to fill out the form. Nobody was at my house during the time. Nobody looked at it. There's a police report out there. I doubt anybody's looked at the pictures. They're very descriptive. They're non-biased. But I've got about 150 pictures I'd be happy to show anybody. Many phone calls, emails, snail mails have gone back and forth with the city of Sedgwick to address the issue. I have documentation for all of this. And on February 10th, I sent an email to the city stating that there were some residual branches hung up in my tree and also some broken off branches in my tree. And that was passed on to Nate Landers. He contacted me and said that they would come and clean that up and trim my tree so the branches would heal properly. But he wanted me to sign a waiver, which I would refuse to sign. I would be happy to read it to you. Nobody in their right mind would have signed this waiver. We then agreed to have a contractor come and do the work, which they did, $470. My question is, the city was willing to pay a contractor to fix my tree. You're not going to pay me to fix my house? I really believe a wrong's been committed here, and it's being ignored. It's being passed off to your insurance people, and they've not even looked at it. My claim is really with the city, not with your insurance people. What I'm requesting is a sit-down meeting with a city official that is in a position to negotiate a fair and honest settlement, which as yet I've not been able to do. I'm asking the city to act in good faith, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Mr. Rule. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
We will take all the information under advisement. We'll consult with our city attorney and city administrator, but someone will be back in touch with you post haste, I promise.
Okay. If not, I'll be back next week.
Okay.
Or 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rule. Anyone else in the audience? Any comments, questions? On the dais, anyone want to share anything? With that, in anticipation of nothing, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this city council meeting.
So moved.
Alderperson Bowring makes the motion to adjourn. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned to the council meeting, folks. Just a quick transition to the committee of the whole. Alderperson Marks will be chairing.
I will call the Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, May 15th, 2023 to order. I'm Alderman Marks, along with Alderman Kasserag, who served the 2nd Ward. So the meeting is called to order. Everyone is present except for Alderman Kasserag. Excuse me, thank you. It'll take a little while, but it will. I apologize for that, but it will take a little while. Recommend suspending the rules to permit Councilmember Marks to chair this meeting and vote on all action items on this agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Alderperson Mayer makes the motion. Second, Alderperson Maladra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I guess I can vote on everything. Third item of business is approve the committee of the whole minutes for May 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Alderperson Bruno. Alderperson Mayor. Any comments, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously, 9-0. Then we go down to items of business. Item 4A is considered draft resolution authorizing the purchase of replacement vehicles not to exceed the fiscal year 2024 budget amount of $590,000 through the State of Illinois Joint Purchase Program. Do I have a motion? Alderperson Mayor, a second? Alderperson Bauer. Stephanie,
Okay.
if you would.
So the fiscal year '24 budget includes funding for the replacement of several vehicles in the street division, funded in the capital equipment fund, and a GIS vehicle funded equally from electric and water wastewater funds. Given the volatility of the market, there will be a very short window in which to order vehicles once availability is known. For council's consideration this evening is a resolution that would authorize advance approval for the purchase of vehicles up to the budgeted amount. If available vehicles exceed the pre-approval amount, further approval by the city council will be requested. Again, as stated in the agenda item, purchases will be made through a joint purchasing agreement, subject to the availability of revenue in the appropriate fund. If you have additional questions, we do have Director Babico with us this evening.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none. Voice vote, correct? That's okay. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 4B is considered draft resolution awarding bid and execution of a contract with Substation Enterprises, Inc. in the amount of $464,426 and authorize change orders not to exceed 10% of the contract amount for the Geneva Business Park 3 substation delivery of materials and equipment. Do I have a motion? Alderperson Bowling. Alderperson Mayor. Stephanie?
Okay, so anticipation of the load growth in Geneva Business Park, the Geneva Business Park 3 substation and transformer will need to be constructed. A request for bids was advertised and no bids were received. The bid package was advertised a second time with one bid submitted by Substation Enterprises. The anticipated delivery date of the structural steel and bus work is estimated at 38 weeks after receipt of order. Several items, namely the circuit switchers, are anticipated to take 74 weeks. As such, this project will be funded over multiple fiscal years. With this evening, we do have Superintendent Holton to answer any additional questions. Supply chain.
Yeah, supply chain, yes. Any questions for either Stephanie or Director Holton? Were you raising your hand,
Yeah,
Alderperson Mayor?
yeah.
Alderperson Mayor, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure, so. You have the floor.
So this is for the materials only? There's no installation component with this?
Correct. Excuse me, correct.
And we're pre-authorizing it this way so that we can build it all in the future?
Right, so we, traditionally, when we build a substation, we bid out the individual components. So we've already authorized the transformer purchase that was done earlier this year. This is the substation package, so this is all the steel bus work and whatnot on the, that'll be for the 34 kV. Hopefully, shortly, I'll be bringing you the substation control house and switchgear. It's a separate contract for the delivery of that. And then probably later this month or early June, we'll be advertising a construction contract, which is the labor to put it all together.
Okay. And that'll include the actual shell of the building? Is it going to be a building, or is it going to be a series of different?
It'll be a building.
Okay.
And or the switchgear building, that's in the next contract that I'm going to bring you. That's for the manufacture and assembly of that. That's a modular metal building. It'll just show up on wheels and be placed on the foundation.
Okay.
So.
And this is on budget, or is this over budget?
This is right at budget.
Right at budget?
At this point,
Okay.
yep.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Alderperson Kilber.
with these types of lead times, what's the city's exposure as it might relate to some type of major breakdown at one of our other substations? I mean, could you envision where we might not be able to source the elements that we'd need to get a substation back operational again? I mean, this is your area of expertise. It's not mine. I'm just asking the question because when you start looking at 74 weeks or 52 weeks, does that possibility exist?
We have a good selection of spares in our yard. So take, for instance, the circuit switcher. We do have a couple that we could probably press into service if we need to. They're auxiliary ones. Say we've got two pieces of bus work. We've got a circuit switcher in between the two of them. We could move that circuit switcher to a substation to feed a transformer if we had to. So we do have spares and backups and contingency plans.
So they're interchangeable, or?
Yeah.
And I guess that answers it. During the interim, can we service areas if we have a major issue at a substation through our grid? I mean, can we cover all the elements that make up Geneva?
We can.
Okay.
We can usually absorb one substation, if not two, depending on the location that goes down. We've had instances where we've lost feeds from ComEd and the western half of the city goes out. And we can pick up part of that, we can't pick up all of it. So it depends on kind of the locality of where it happens, but we have a pretty robust utility system, and we can.
So our fallback is pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Our exposure vulnerability isn't as great as you might think it would be. Very good, thank you.
Any other questions? I just have one. I guess I have a couple. That's a whole new area out there. Can we start having construction happen out there without this in place, or is that going to stretch us too far?
No. So my staff and myself, as projects come forward, we look at it and say, yes, we can serve it, or no, we can't right now. It will be X number of months in the future before we can. So we look at what capacity we have. We don't overextend ourselves.
Okay. That's the only question I had. Thank you so much. Any other questions from the dais or the audience? Hearing none, seeing one. Voice vote okay for this? Voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4C is consider draft resolution awarding bid and extension of contract with Geneva Construction Company in the amount of $2,545,587.73 for the 2023 street and infrastructure project. Do I have a motion? Alderperson Mayor makes the motion, excuse me. Alderperson Ruby makes the second. Any comment? Oh, go ahead, Stephanie, please.
So 3 bids for the infrastructure project, including roadway restoration, were received. The lowest responsible bidder is Geneva Construction Company. The alternative bid cost for the fibrous reinforcement came in at an additional cost of approximately $114,000 and therefore is not being recommended at this time. Geneva Construction Company is pre-qualified by IDOT and has performed satisfactory work for the City of Geneva for several projects, including last year's infrastructure project. And still with us this evening is Director Babica, who can answer any questions you might have.
Alderperson Bubbling.
So I would just like a little.
You got it.
Sorry,
Thank
that
you.
was not on. We'll wait till you get up there. But I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit on why. So I understand this is over budget. It seems like if it could potentially expand or extend the life of these roadways 5 to 10 years, it looked like in the packet. Is there a cost-benefit analysis that makes that seem like an expense that's worth considering, or do we simply not have any money anywhere available for it? If you don't mind elaborating just beyond what was answered in our written questions, I would appreciate it.
My staff and I put forth a very aggressive infrastructure program this year, trying to make up for some lost ground from previous years. And we did develop a special provision to utilize a fibrous additive in the warm mix asphalt. The additive basically provides more elasticity within the surface course to reduce the wear of heavy traffic such as school buses or garbage trucks and turn movements. And with two of the major candidates, including Williamsburg and Brisher, we thought that would be a useful additive to use. But the unit prices came in fairly aggressive. They were still good unit prices overall, but as everything is going up in price, we went right up to and are actually already over budget. And at this point in time, as much as we would like to do it, and it has shown to be successful in extending roadways 5 to 10 years. A lot of other communities are using it, including Aurora and Elgin. They build it into their standard specifications, and it does work well with the city's strategic plan of reducing our carbon footprint. If you can have your roads extend to a 20 to 25-year lifespan, you're basically getting 2 resurfacing applications for the cost of 3, which is we're currently on a 15-year rotation. But at the end of the day, we're already over budget, and we're satisfied with the road work we're doing. But at the same time, you have to know when to say when, and we gave that information up to you as the city council. My staff wants the fiber. I have the obligation to work with the budget officer and keep us on a solid footing. But the project would be $114,000 over budget. Over the lifespan, could that be made up? It's entirely possible, but at the same time, you have to know when to say when, and at this point in time, I just didn't feel comfortable being that far over budget coming in front of the city council.
Well, can I pose a question? Excuse me if this is out of line. I'm still learning the ropes.
We'll tell you if it's not.
Great. Is that something that city council would like to entertain? I'm not an expert in this area, but if I see extension of life of 5 to 10 years, that seems like it's worth what seems like a substantial, but not, it's not doubling the cost by any means, investment in a project like this. So I'd be curious to hear whether there's support for exploring this. And, again, I'm not the budget officer, so I understand that there may be things that I'm not aware of, but I'd just like to put that out there.
Alderperson Maladra.
I agree. It sounds like a very attractive thing to do. However, I think in order for us to decide whether or not we want to pursue it, we have to know what we'd give up in order to get it. So having a discussion about it at some point makes sense, but for right now, I trust that your analysis, like when you say we're already over budget, so as much as I would like to have this, I don't see how I can stretch and make it up through the course of the year. I basically rely on, did I say something wrong?
No.
Okay. I rely on your experience and judgment for these sorts of things. For us, we need to know the gives and the takes.
Stephanie, do you have any?
Is there a way to do it at intersections and areas of higher wear and tear than the general stretch of road, and is that effective?
We looked into that also. The 2 major projects of this program are Williamsburg from Fisher Drive out to Route 38, and then Brisher from Randall Road to Peck. They're both collector streets, arterial collector streets, high impact. Williamsburg primarily due to the commercial property and deliveries, as well as the school buses for the school site. And then Brisher is also an arterial primarily for truck traffic. But when we looked at just doing those 2 specific streets, the cost for the fiber for those 2 specific streets, because they're so big of the project, it accounts for almost And I believe the number was between 72 and 77,000 out of the 113,000. So it's difficult for me. We're May 15th, and I don't want to be in the position of saying, right now I'm confident. We're about $30,000 over budget. I'm absolutely confident in a $5 million infrastructure budget that I can find the $30,000. Coming up with $143,000, we have to start making some real choices there. And there's two big projects that are still in that infrastructure fund. One is the land acquisition for East State Street. And those numbers are coming in favorable, but I'm not quite willing to pop the champagne on that land acquisition cost. And then the next big project is storm sewer and drainage improvements. Now, this project includes roughly 1/5 of the drainage improvements that the budget has budgeted funds for. But I would have to, those are the two likeliest candidates. After those two projects, the projects become much smaller in scope. The sidewalk replacement program, which we would not obviously want to sacrifice. Pavement markings, which has a liability issue. Tree replacements, which also fall within the city strategic plan. So it becomes extremely difficult. It's a very realistic, it's an aggressive but tight budget. And I would be wary, at least until some of the other projects come in, to see if we make up this shortfall. And that's the problem we encounter. In order to make this project done, to meet our target deadlines, this has to be the first one right out the gate. And I just can't turn around and say, I'm going to be more aggressive or reduce the scope in some of these other projects throughout the year, which I'm confident that we could probably get really close. But if I had to stand up here in front of the city council and say that, yeah, absolutely, I can make up $113,000 over the next 12 months, I'm kind of out on that plank all by myself.
Okay. When was the last time we had to repave Brisher?
Last time Brisher would have been resurfaced would have probably been close to 15 years ago.
Okay.
So it's coming up to the end of its lifespan.
Okay. I think that we should probably let you roll as is and put this into the works for the next time.
Alderman Bone.
I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to elaborate on this. It's helped fill in a bunch of the background for me, which I really appreciate. So, and yes, I think your reasoning is more clear to me now. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Stephanie, did you have something to say? Okay, I wasn't sure. Alderperson Kilberg.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. How do we assess the deterioration of the street? I know that we're on a cycle. We look at years that a street's been in service. You know, as an example, actually the two streets that you mentioned, Williamsburg and Brisher, as I travel those streets, there hasn't been very many patches. And actually, from my recollection traveling those, they seem to be in pretty good shape compared to some other streets in Geneva. So I know that it's not an easy process, but is it just because the fact that those streets are 15 or 20 years old, it's time for them to be replaced before we have a deterioration? Or does the state of the street at the present time, does that have any bearing in how we distribute those funds, those limited funds over the city?
There's a lot to unpack there.
No, I'm just.
So in interest of keeping us moving, it's not just we evaluate each road segment on a case-by-case basis. So it's not just based on the age of the year, age of the last resurfacing. One of the big factors that we look at is how the road is rated. An arterial collector will deteriorate faster than a cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sac you can probably get to last 20 years because there's very limited traffic in and out of that cul-de-sac. One of the other big killers of the roadway is the amount of truck traffic. A single pass by a tractor-trailer truck is the equivalent of, I believe, 500 vehicles. So the roadways that take a lot of truck traffic, think of like South Street, Western, they're going to deteriorate at a much faster pace than Fargo, for example. Fargo is a arterial, well, it's a minor collector, but it doesn't get as much truck traffic. So those are some of the other factors we look at. There's the overall condition of the roadway. We have some really interesting roads in Geneva. Burgess, for example, has a cross-section depth of almost 16 inches. Why that road is so deep, nobody on my staff has any idea, but that road is probably going to last 50 years before we have to look at a reconstruction. We also look at other utility projects and their needs. For example, we had South 2nd Street as a candidate for this year's program, and we bid it as such. And after we had issued the project for bid, NICOR announced that they were going to be doing a gas main replacement down 2nd Street. And the last thing we want to do is to resurface a roadway and then have another utility come up and cut it up. That doesn't look good for anybody, especially the Director of Public Works. So we look at other utility projects. We also look at our own utility projects. Where are we going to be resurfacing roads for the water main replacements that we're targeting for lead line replacement? Some of these streets that are probably in poorer condition than the ones we're presenting, we've pushed back because we know over the next 5 years we're going to be tearing the road up to put in new water main. But like last year, we reconstructed Normandy, Andover, and Greenwich because we replaced the water main. So the water utility replaced the underground infrastructure, and then the 415 fund resurfaced the roadway. So there's a lot of things we look at. Age of the pavement, we have some roads in Geneva where the base course, so not the surface layer, but the binder level and the sub-base, they had some interesting techniques in the 80s and 90s, and it didn't last as much, so we have to deal with those. We have other streets that have a concrete base, so there's hot mix asphalt on top of a concrete base, so that concrete deteriorates. Stevens is a classic example when we had to rebuild that roadway 9 years ago. So I could be up here and bore you all to tears about the number of things we do. Probably the best way I could say is if you want to learn more about how we rate roads, feel free to let me know, and we can put together a little presentation for you at Public Works, and you can geek out with us, because once we start talking about pavement cross sections, you're living. So I'm more than happy to do that.
How far back do we have history on the depth of the asphalt? Because I was surprised at the depth on East Side Drive when they were over there involved with that project, because it looked like there was probably about 7 or 8 inches of asphalt.
Yeah, it was 14 actually.
Okay, well, I didn't want to overstate it.
It's again.
I mean, would that be sort of a situation where, depending on what decade a street was redone, the standards have changed that much over the years, or is it just a case of we don't have an answer?
The mixes that we use now are designed with such a high degree of efficiency and effectiveness, especially with this compacting, that with the exception of being an arterial or a collector, an East Side Drive would be considered an arterial or collector street. A typical residential cross section's about 3.5 inches of binder covered by about 1 3/4 to 2 inches of surface on top of 6 to 8 inches of compacted gravel. That's a standard residential cross section. That's going to probably serve almost all the roadways within the city of Geneva. Once we start getting into Caneville, Keslinger's not ours, it's a county road. But Caneville, Fargo, Lewis, Peck, well, one of the Pecks is not the county's, the other one's mine. But the politest way I can put it for the roads that were constructed in the 80s and 90s is that the surface mixes that they were using did not have the tensile strength or the compression strength that we have nowadays. The rollers, the equipment that's commonly used now, they were using static rollers, and now almost every roller is a vibratory roller. They have gyroscopic vibratory roller controls, dial-up frequencies where you can really dial in that density. And also now we check, I apologize, you put me into my sweet spot here.
I know, I was going to say, I think you got us into the.
Hey, we're spending $300,000.
Yeah, I'm not.
But we also, we do, the next item up is specifically there to, one of the things they do is they test the density of the pavement to make sure that we're getting to the proper compaction, which was a technology they simply didn't have back in the 80s and 90s. So it's far more technical than it used to be.
We'll let you go.
I think I'm
He was enjoying it.
I'm actually letting you.
You could
I'm
see.
excited. Yeah. I mean, the heart
There was
rate's
a
up and everything.
smile on
This
his
is
face, let
my
me tell you.
wellness. I'm gonna move some dirt.
I've lost control of this. I can see any other questions or comments from the dais, the audience?
The one question I do
Yeah, go
have,
ahead.
at least on my tablet, the map that was included as the attachment, none of the street names showed up. Did that translate onto your Okay. Okay, perfect. Must just be something with my tablet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Next item of business is 4D, consider draft resolution accepting a quote from National Soil Testing LLC in an amount not to exceed $25,840,000 for 2023 construction material testing and geotechnical services. Do I have a motion? Motion by Alderperson Swanson, second by Alderperson Mayor. Stephanie, go
Well,
ahead.
I don't know if we need anything. Rich already talked about soil testing, so this item is for our construction material geotechnical services or to determine existing roadway cross-sections for future projects and testing of soil. And so we had one quote from National, and they have previously worked in the city. So if you have additional questions on this road project, Mr. Babica is your guy.
He is willing to come up and answer anything, I can tell you that. Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously also. Item 4E is consider draft resolution awarding bidding contract to Globe Construction, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $126,200 for 2023 sidewalk and curb maintenance project. Do I have oh, wait, Stephanie, do you have anything for that? I'm sorry. No, a motion first? Okay.
So
Do I have a
moved.
motion? Motion by Alderperson Bruno. Second by Alderperson Paskey.
Okay, so this one, we had one bid received for the sidewalk and curb maintenance project from Globe Construction, Inc. They have done this type of work for the city before and have performed satisfactory. So again, we still have Director Babica, who probably can geek out on sidewalks as well if you'd like.
Any Alderperson Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When will we have a map similar to the streets as to what walks and curbs are going to be replaced? Or this is pretty granular, right? Spread around the city?
It's pretty much scattered throughout the community. So putting together a map is extremely difficult to do, having it be coherent. The property owners, the affected adjacent properties, they are notified in advance. And of course, we put it up on the city's webpage, so they'll have as much information out there as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Alderperson Kilberg.
When a contractor cuts our curbs, now, do they replace the curbs, or is that something where this project will replace those curbs and that we bill back the contractor then?
Are you referring to a private contractor doing repairs for a
No, I'm saying, like, for
individual's
instance, the
property?
construction on East Side Drive. They've made curb cuts over there, and will they replace the curbs with their own contractor, or is that included in our sidewalk and curb maintenance program? In other words, when we have a contractor that's doing that type of work in the city, do they come and do that type of work then?
I just want to make sure that I understand your question. This is work being done by a contractor for a private resident or commercial property owner, not on
Right.
behalf of the city.
Mhm.
Yes, in that sense, they are obligated to make those repairs, and we ensure that those repairs are made by acquiring the appropriate bonds before they make those repairs. We do not.
Okay.
The city code, there is a provision within the city code that if they fail to do it, we can do that and then bill them back at a certain percentage. But that's only done as an item of last
So that's a
resort.
part of the, it's a part of their returning the streets and curbs to their original state then?
Correct.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you. Include sidewalks as well, I would assume.
Yes, sir.
Any other? I guess I have one, and it's going to get granular. Do we do these repairs based upon residents calling because they see an issue, or is that someone really actually goes out and walks these sidewalks, I guess? I mean, I think you know the one where we patched it with asphalt and stuff, those I would imagine would be on there because the tree root has really heaved that sidewalk up.
Yeah, there are, we respond to sidewalk requests and curb requests by the public and by other entities and by our own utility companies. When we're made aware of a trip hazard, we have an obligation to make the area safe. And sometimes we'll do a temporary patch with an epoxy to mitigate the risk before we can do a full-blown replacement. Sometimes we'll grind it internally to mitigate that risk till we can do the replacement. So there's a variety of solutions that we do. The worst-case scenario is actually having to go out and put a barricade up on top of the sidewalk to protect the public from a safety issue. But our primary source of information is from the public. And then the next source of information is where my staff, is predominantly the engineering division and the GIS division, as they're out collecting data on other projects may come across sidewalks. Police and fire, unfortunately, if there's a incident, they'll let us know if there's an issue, and then we'll address to those. And then there are some areas that we're becoming more proactive. We'll start, we've been targeting like the downtown corridor. We'll look at the schools and fan out from the schools till if, we don't like returning money for the sidewalk program, which is why we bid it on a unit price. So instead of just a quantity, so we can take that right up to the $100,000 mark, which is what this budget is. There are other, this project is not over budget because we're doing utility repairs for both the electric utility and the water utility. So we're back charging them for this work. And we're also doing some TIF work for economic development as part of this project.
Any other comments? He's on a roll tonight, I'll tell you. You're doing.
This is what I live for.
Alderperson Mayor.
Will you be doing work for the SSAs within this too that comes from the SSA budget, or like SSA 5 where there was a drainage area that was in conflict with the sidewalk?
The public sidewalks are not covered by the SSA,
Okay,
so that is part of the sidewalk program.
okay. Even better. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. Nope, passed unanimously. Item 4F is consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a contract to LRS Services for 2023-2028 refuse and recycling services. Do I have a motion? Alderperson Mayor makes the motion. Alderperson Maladra makes the second. Stephanie?
Okay. So the current refuse and recycling contract with LRS expires on June 30th, 2023. The contract specifications were updated to incorporate several services previously provided as alternatives into the standard scope, which included the food scrap program, Saturday downtown collection, and updating the need for various city-sponsored events. A request for proposal was advertised with 2 proposals received. The proposal from LRS complied with all specifications of the RFP with no exceptions. The second proposal was rejected as it deviated substantially from the issued specifications. For your consideration and direction this evening, LRS has provided costs to provide the following contract alternatives. One was the Sunday downtown collection, which would be charged to the city. One is curbside pay-by-use electronic recycling, which would be part of the sticker program. And then the third one was the dry cell battery collection, which would also be charged to the city. LRS has successfully managed and performed the current contract, and staff is confident of their abilities to continue that service to the residents of Geneva. With us this evening, we do have Bill Kinney from LRS, and then Director Babica has not yet left the room, so feel free to ask him questions as well.
Do you have any comments you want to make before I open it up to the floor for questions? Or would you like to just have the questions? Your preference?
I guess I'll just address the committee. Good evening to everybody. Mayor, committee, thank you for having me tonight, and congratulations to the new alderpersons. And happy birthday to Alderperson Bruno. That's all I have to say tonight. No, we just really, we take nothing for granted. We obviously, I shouldn't say, we really love being here. This is a wonderful community for us. We've got synergies with other communities in the area. We've got facilities close by, so it works very well from us from an operational standpoint. We're very fleet-footed as far as taking care of issues. And again, we love being here. I'm a resident here. I live just down on James Street. I've been here for several years now, and so it's got a personal component to me. But I will entertain any questions you have. I'll go sit down right now and let you discuss it, but if there's any other questions I can answer.
I think we're going to have some questions.
Oh, yeah, please.
Alderperson Bowen first, and then Alderperson Swanson.
So I have some questions that might be for you, some that might be for Rich. Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. And then I guess maybe some that might even be best directed at Stephanie, I'm not sure. So I had a number of questions about the food scrap program, and I was actually discussing this a bit with Rich even before I took office. I noticed on the LRS website that the description for what is acceptable for Geneva's food scrap program is actually greater than what's described on Geneva's own website. And I was wondering, since we have you here, can you offer some clarity on that? I believe there was some, I'll let you talk and then I'll ask more questions.
No, I mean, it's a very good question. Food scraps and compost programs are evolving very quickly. We don't have the same sort of sophistication that they do on the West Coast and the East Coast, where you have fewer landfills and there's more of a sort of a sense of urgency. But the good news is we are going in the right direction. As far as what we can take, it's pretty consistent. I'm not too familiar with the city's website. I haven't looked at that to see what I'm comparing it against. But as far as food, we can take meats, bones, eggshells, of course, fruits and vegetables. It's the things that trip us up that you might not really even think about. As a company, we bought a digester a few years ago, and we found quickly that they're pretty sensitive to stickers on a tomato, for example. So there's no way to police that, and we don't want to be too precious about it and discourage people from doing it. But we have a pretty up-to-date website that shows what is and what isn't. If people want to get a cart from us for composting, we'll try and mark that with stickers that show what is and is not appropriate to go in there. But it's definitely evolving.
Great, yeah, so then, so what's listed on the city's website, I think, was the minimum specifications from their last contract, which was just kind of the things that, more or less, that you can compost in your yard, I think with the addition of dairy. But it didn't include, soiled cardboard, meat, bones, shells, et cetera. So I was very happy to learn about that because I'm an avid composter. I used to live, full disclosure, on the West Coast, and before that, although this is before they had compost there, the East Coast. So I'd, really love to be able to divert more waste from the landfill. Are you, so I don't know if this is a question for you or for Rich. How is the cost carried for recycling? So that's free to the residents right now. Is that covered in the, price per cart or price per waste sticker? Or does the city pay some amount? I couldn't find that in the contract.
No, it's all baked into the formula that we use to come up with pricing for stickers and for the subscription garbage
Okay.
users. It's definitely, I mean, it's not free in the classic sense. I mean, we still have to pay union drivers who work very hard, but they don't work cheap. We still have to pay them. We still have to buy those trucks. Those trucks are $400,000 plus now. So we have the same labor costs that go into it. So it's not something we could just, not include in our pricing, but there's just not a separate charge for it. It's included. And now, having said that, there are some people that put their recycle carts out every week and they don't have any garbage that they put out. I mean, there's a lot of different sort of components to this contract, but I wouldn't say it's free in the classic sense.
Right, sorry, so no additional cost to the residents.
No additional cost, right. And it is a take-all town too, which means that as long as it's acceptable, recyclable material, and if it doesn't fit, my wife and I have 3 kids. We produce a lot of recyclable each week, and if something doesn't fit in your cart, we live in an Amazon world. If you put cardboard boxes out, we'll take that too. There's no additional charge for that.
Are you able to shed any light on the waste stream for recyclables? I feel like what I've heard as a bystander is that the market for most plastics is pretty down. But I noticed that we are still, you guys are still taking almost all types of plastics.
Yeah.
Is there still a market for that? Do you think that they're getting recycled? Do you know their final destination?
So, like Rich was saying earlier, you're hitting my sweet spot now. I could very quickly make eyes glaze over, but it's full steam ahead for us. It is a down market for recyclables. There's no doubt about it. There's been a lot of influences on that. The fact that China's not taking material anymore, just certain commodities are not. If you don't have good partnerships, you're almost paying the same as you would pay as disposal for garbage, for example. Having said that, like I say, we're doubling down. We just built another recycling sorting facility in the back of the Yards neighborhood in Chicago, which is about a $55 million facility, $150 million square foot facility. So we have that to complement our other sorting facilities. We want that volume. We produce very good bales of material that our partners want very much because we have the technology to sort it so well and keep it very pristine. But nobody's getting rich off recycling right now. It is still a down market. There's ebbs and flows. We're a fully integrated company. We'll be prepared. We're prepared to go through these times and hope it gets better soon. But we're not pulling back from our mission as far as really hammering recycling.
Okay. And then, so this is the question that might be better directed at Stephanie. So if we're trying to divert more from landfills, and it sounds like at least some of the recycling is finding a market, which is reassuring, not necessarily what one would believe from an outsider's view. It seemed like some of my questions seemed like more like policy discussion questions, and I guess so I'm wondering, how do we balance having a policy discussion about issues like this when we have a contract coming up for 5 years, in terms of how we think about things? I think this seems like a reasonable contract, and certainly it's our best option at this point. But anyway.
So if you're thinking in terms of, because I think one of your questions was like yard waste, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're thinking in terms of the city picking up the cost, that can happen at any time during a contract.
Okay.
It would all be a matter of budget and having the funds and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking of a term to the actual contract itself, mm-hmm. then that's a different story.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
So, and when we say policy discussion, because it requires the legislative body to say, this is important and we want to pick up that cost, or we want to make sure that it's available, because yard waste toters are available under the contract at a cost to residents. But if the council was looking to pick up that cost, then that becomes more of a budget question.
So I guess I'd like to throw out there, not to stymie this contract in particular, but I think a concern I have is that given the down market in recycling, if we're trying to divert waste from landfills, I think it's worth us, and that's part of our strategic plan, I think it's worth us considering the way we think about contracts and how they're written in terms of what the costs perceived are to the resident. Because right now, recycling feels free, so it's incentivized. Trash has a cost per unit or per rental, so it feels more onerous. I think that's by design. But now yard waste does as well. And since it sounds like a lot of that is actually quite successfully being diverted, again, at a cost, none of this is actually free. I guess I want to put out there that I'd like at the appropriate time for us to consider how we're incentivizing residents to think about their refuse and the waste stream. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
I think it was Alderperson Swanson was next, then it's Alderperson Bruno, and then Alderperson Ruby.
Thank you. Representing the downtown, obviously Sunday collections are important, and we need them frequently, but it kind of coincides with boating season, starting about now and ending in November. And I know the contract has an annual fee for that. Is it something that we could do on an as-needed basis or a portion of the year?
Oh, if you insist, Rich.
Director Babick is going to answer that question.
I just want to make sure that we're not negotiating a contract at the committee meeting. I would prefer that if that was the direction of the city council, that the city council would then direct staff to, upon contract execution, to negotiate a unit price and bring that recommendation back to the front of the city council. I think that would just be a little bit cleaner than having that discussion here and now.
I just wanted to make sure that that was a concept that was available, that we didn't have to have it weekly. We could do what you just said. So no, I was not trying to negotiate the contract, just more seeing if that was available and an option that we could pursue.
But I think that's what Rich is saying. Whether that's an option or not an option is part of the negotiation. So if that is an option that you're seeking, then give us the direction and we can go entertain those discussions.
It's definitely an option I would like to see. I would not like to see the trucks driving down when it's 10 below zero in January picking up nothing. So yes, I think it should be on an as-needed basis if we could do that.
I would concur.
Yeah, we need to make sure we have a consensus.
Yep.
Yes, and I think it should be time-based. It can't be week by week. It would be months of the year.
Yeah. Seasonal.
Yeah, seasonal, thank you. That makes sense.
I was going to leave that to them to negotiate, just I didn't want it open-ended, that's all.
I'm getting the sense that there's a consensus. I don't think we need to take a vote. So, Rich, do you have enough direction, or?
I do, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
Go ahead,
ask
Alderman,
something?
Alderperson
Just to
Mayor.
be clear, we're directing him to get a unit price, not to necessarily include that in the contract, correct?
So what I perceive is on all three of these alternatives is we would approve the contract right now, and then if we get direction on any of these alternatives, if it's clear cut, we can add that in, but if it's not, then we would bring those back separately. Is that correct, Rich?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that
Yes.
clarify for you? Alderperson
That takes care of me,
Swanson?
thank you.
Alderperson Bruno was next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and you beat me to the Sunday thing, because that has really been grinding on me. When you first approached, I'm sorry, I forget your name. Bill. When Lakeshore initially was pursuing the contract with the cities in the area, you floated the idea of a pilot program that had like smart tags in bins, so in lieu of paper stickers, your truck would sense, oh, I'm picking up Alderman Kilberg's. And,
RFID.
yeah, and then build back. Is that still on the radar in any sense?
I would say for this contract.
Oh, yeah, just-
It would be a difficult thing to achieve. We do it in two communities. We do it in Wheaton, and we do it in Highland Park. It's a very tough, you have to have enough homes to do it. Usually we look for, north of 10,000 homes to really do it effectively. But, if we were asked about it, maybe, Lord willing, if we get this opportunity in 5 years, if we get it now, we haven't even voted on it. It's something we could discuss, but it takes some beta testing.
I understand
You have to retrofit trucks with certain equipment, so.
Yeah, that was the next question. It's not like all your trucks do not have this capability.
No, they don't. You have to fit the arms with certain software, and then over the last 5 years, we've integrated other carts that might not have those chips on them, so we would have to audit essentially all the carts that we have out there. So I'm not saying it's not something we wouldn't discuss, but in the short term, it would be difficult.
I understand. We're sticker users, we're empty nesters.
Gotcha.
We can go 3 weeks without putting garbage out, so.
I understand.
Thank you.
Of course.
Alderperson Bruno, did that answer all your, okay, Alderperson Ruby, please. I think it was
Thank you. So I have a question about contaminants in the recycling. Do you know, are you aware of what percentage of items that go into the recycling truck from Geneva residents actually get recycled due to contaminants? It's obviously not 100%.
I've been thinking about how I would answer this question.
Yeah, it makes me sick even asking this question.
No, it's not without challenges in Geneva.
Sure.
There are recycling headwinds when you have a pay-as-you-throw system. The perception sometimes with people is that recycle container is a default garbage container. Right. And so that is a challenge. The good news for us is sort of the devil you know, and maybe that's putting it a little bit too bluntly, but having been here for 5 years in town service, we sort of know the areas where it's more pronounced, where people do that a little bit more. It is something that if we're lucky enough to get this contract, if you all are see it fit for us to vote us in again, we're going to be a little bit more assertive. I don't mean heavy-handed, but assertive with tagging carts that we notice have white plastic bags in them or some sort of contraband. But it is a challenge. I can't lie about that.
Yeah, so on,
You were on.
oh, okay. On garbage day, I regularly see, as we walk to school or wherever we're going, I see recycle bins overflowing with things like plastic bags or styrofoam, things that I know shouldn't be there. But then the carts are empty later in the day. So I see trash cans sometimes tagged. I honestly have never seen a recycle bin tagged. Is that something your drivers often do?
It's something that they should be doing, and they do.
Okay.
But maybe not quite enough. Sometimes our drivers, and I can't say enough good things about them.
Sure.
Sometimes, first of all, they don't always see that stuff until they tip it, because they're in these trucks, and most of our trucks have the arm loaders that load it into the front, that 3-yard bin in the front, and they don't always know that it's in there until it gets dumped. But if they see it is when they're supposed to get out and tag that and say, hey, we can't take white bags. But there's always, the problem with that is you're going to inevitably get a call. I'm going to get a call from Rich maybe, or somebody at the city saying, hey, can you check into this? And we're probably going to have to get a driver. Somebody's going to have to go back there and get that taken care of. So we have to be pretty judicious about it. But again, I'm being too wordy about it. We're definitely, it is something that we're going to try and be a little bit more assertive on as far as tagging stuff.
Okay.
Because people don't always have bad intentions. Sometimes
Sure.
they just don't always know.
Wish cycling.
Wish cycling, right.
Yes.
Yeah, the white bags that's always what you can drive around on your garbage day and you can always tell. There are some people, it's the human condition. There are some people that are just going to game it and, but there's a lot of people that just, they don't know.
Sure,
just have to-
and that's what is difficult for me when I see all the things that I know shouldn't be in the bin get taken, then that person is never going to, they're not going to change their habits.
Yeah.
They don't know any differently. So back to my question, do you have any idea on the percentage of recyclables that actually get recycled?
I can give you a company-wide average. It's hard to get to do it specifically for Geneva. We do give the city reporting, but that's more weight, volume, participation rates, that sort of thing. On average, with our facilities, our residual rate, meaning what doesn't get recycled, is probably 12 to 15%, which means that the vast majority does get recycled.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, no, and it would probably be much better than that if we didn't have to incorporate the city of Chicago Blue Card into that, where it's really bad down there. Again, that has to do with, us having facilities where we can sort by eddy currents, by optic sorters, ballistic sorters. We have AI, we have robots, that pull HDPE stuff out. So we have a very good sorting policy. Process rather, so that helps out quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Alderperson Kilberg, you haven't been called yet.
Stickers. We have, currently, people are using stickers, an inventory of stickers. They'll be good indefinitely.
We're bouncing back and forth there. The current contract, or the proposed contract rather, will require the vendor to honor the existing stickers for 30 days after the expiration of the contract. And also, there is language in there to require the outgoing contractor, if, for example, Lakeshore was not the successful vendor and we were going with another contractor, the current contractor requires Lakeshore to implement a sticker buyback program. I hope we never have to implement that, but that was one of the things that we added into the last contract 5 years ago under the current contract. So the new contract will require them to honor for 30 days and also to implement a buyback program at the end of their contract if they're not renewed. But we have not discussed the implementation or the changeover to the new contract. Once we get past the committee meeting, if I'm directed to move forward with this to the next city council, then we'll start getting more into the operational discussions with Lakeshore as how we're going to transition in. Are we going to have a new color sticker coming out because we're doing this on our own instead of both St. Charles and Batavia? Some of the more details from the operational side we'll start working on now, but at the high level, that's where we're at.
So somebody that has 20 stickers right now, you're saying there's going to be a buyback program?
Well, the current contract does require a sticker buyback program, but again, if the city council so chooses to renew or to issue a new contract with Lakeshore, then we'll have that topic of discussion will come up with Lakeshore as to whether or not they're going to honor the old stickers through to life or if they're going to transition them in.
I think 30 days is a pretty short string. I think that they ought to honor old stickers as long as they're present in the city. I mean, as far as people having an inventory of stickers, they ought to be able to use them until they have to go out and buy new stickers at the higher price. I mean, I think people didn't have any forewarning, so you could have somebody that went out and bought 20 stickers. And, what's the remedy? I think the easiest way, rather than a buyback program, would be to allow them to exhaust their inventory.
Again, I think that's an operational question that we haven't.
I mean, is that an issue that was negotiated? I mean, can we discuss this?
If the recommendation is to honor all stickers at the old price, I'm going to go buy 100 stickers tonight.
Yeah, and I would just
So
note
I would
that the
be very
stickers do
careful.
have an expiration date on them, so there is notice that they were expiring. But as far as negotiating details, it does get into the weeds a little bit of what we should
What's the
be.
expiration date on it?
June 30th, 2023.
How long
It's
are
right
they-
on the sticker. They've been on that since day one.
Okay. That answers it, okay.
They do have an expiration date, yeah.
But I'm sure there's some grandmothers out there, though, that probably didn't read the fine print. But, no,
at my house if anybody
I'm just, okay, that takes care of itself, because I guess I didn't notice it, or I wasn't aware of the fact that there was an expiration date on
It's
the
in the upper
stickers.
left corner, so when you go home and look at your sticker, you can confirm.
You know who takes the garbage out at our house. I guess this would be relevant. We had a 3-year contract previously? Was that a 5-year contract? Okay. What's the merits of a 5-year contract versus a 3-year contract? Because I think long-term contracts lends itself to some level of complacency, I think, over time. I know that hasn't been the case with Lakeshore, I don't believe. I think they've performed admirably. I guess I'm saying this covers 2 election cycles. So when you come back in 2028, there could be a half a dozen new council members here. And I know that's their choice then at that point in time, but what we're doing is we're committing a number of, potential or future elected officials for the city here to a contract that they're going to be obligated to honor. I mean, I can see a 3-year contract, but is there a reason or a convenience factor? I mean, does it involve less staff time, or is it is something that that's a standard that is that a standard normally? Like, for instance, you referenced Wheaton.
So it's very rare that a contract is under 5 years. There's so many assets that we have to, we're buying massive amounts of carts, 7 to 10 trucks sometimes in cities, and we have to be able to operate with enough time where that the depreciation on those assets will catch up with us being even just flush. So I'm not saying anyone should get out the violins, but with 3-year contracts, we don't begin to cover those costs. In a renewal, it's obviously a little bit different. We prefer like terms. That's usually what happens. Not always. With Wheaton, you mentioned Wheaton, we renewed with 3 years. That's what the city contract allows for. But I mean, I think a lot of haulers probably might be a little reluctant to bid a contract of this size with, anywhere between 72 and 7,500 homes if they didn't at least have an anchor there as far as how much time they had to sort of learn the efficiencies and get scales of economy and make it a.
No, I realize, I know it's been 5 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And the implementation it's a big undertaking, I know, to pull all the old bins and then get everything distributed, and then dealing with people that got the wrong bin or too large, too small.
Yeah.
So
All
I'm
those
sure
things.
that, and that involves probably 2 or 3 months to sort all that through when you pick up a new account.
It certainly can, or longer, depending on what the sort of the scope of services are, no doubt about it.
Okay, and my last question then would be, where's our waste, our land, where's our waste end up? What landfills are Lakeshore currently utilizing? How far is our city waste being transported?
Sure. So primarily, our most material goes to the GFL landfill up in Zion, Illinois, up north.
Okay.
We may take some to our facility, but that's quite a bit further away. But if there's some route efficiencies, if we have trucks going down there and we can sort of dovetail it into those loads, we would do that too. But most of it's going to go to Zion, Illinois.
So the waste garbage truck moves through Geneva, it's picked up, and It goes to a substation then?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
it-
Where's
right.
that located?
So it goes to a transfer station. We would take that to our Elburn facility, right
Okay.
back here. And so we're nice and local. And then it would get.
So every garbage truck in Geneva then goes to Elburn,
Yes,
loaded, unloads, and then it's back into town.
and then back into town, right. It works out pretty well for us.
Good. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Alderperson Bruno, I think you wanted to speak in.
I think this is just an idea. I'm going to give it to you for free. My wife's always asking, can I recycle this? Do you think of a smartphone app? Just take a picture, maybe with all this AI and stuff, maybe just take a picture of stuff and it'll say, yeah, you can recycle that.
It's honestly, I've never heard that, but I think it's actually, it makes a lot of sense. Because you have that with like plants and trees where you just take a picture of it.
See?
It's like the.
I've already offered it for free.
Yeah.
Copyrighted first.
Right. It's like the Optigrab from the movie The Jerk. It's one of those great ideas I can't believe nobody thought. But it's actually a good idea, I have to say.
Thanks.
Alderperson Palmer, you had
Sorry,
another
I have
question.
just a few, hopefully fairly quick questions.
I'll talk as long as you guys want.
I know,
I'm not very
everyone-
entertaining, but.
I appreciate all of your answers. What is the season for the yard waste carts or the yard waste in general? I noticed that was a line item there.
So it's unique with Geneva, and it's the same in St. Charles, where typically it starts in April and goes through the end of November. Here we have sort of an amnesty where people can put out bags of yard waste, grass clippings, leaves, I think the last 2 weeks of March, I believe. And then I think that bleeds into December. I don't remember exactly, I think it's,
Yeah, the first 2 weeks of the program do not require stickers, and then the month of December, upon the completion of leaf collection, you can also dispose of any remaining leaves through the lawn bags.
So
It's leaves only.
with the expanded food waste program that we have access to, the time period would be April through November? Similar to because at other times of year, they're just not picking up the yard waste? So the
Correct.
cart would be just not picked up or not available to us, or?
Typically, subscription holders usually keep it at their house.
yes.
Okay.
They're not collected.
And
They
then-
can be, and they can also be swapped out for wear and tear.
Thank you.
Okay. And then, can you provide any elaboration on why the sticker price for, sorry, this is a question I had for the city and they didn't know. So now that I have you here, I'm asking you why the sticker price for say there's 4 weeks in a month, if you put out 1 can a week, which we typically do, why that cost is so much more to rent a comparably sized cart, like the smallest cart?
It's a fair question. When we do our pro formas to come up with the pricing that we submit on these, that's one of the things we bake into the math is what we estimate the average. So if somebody's using stickers exclusively, if they're not on a subscription program, we estimate, and we feel pretty safely, they're using 2 to 3 bags a month. It's not a perfect system. There's going to be people that, don't use garbage at all. They take their garbage to the library. They take their garbage to city cans. They find a way. I hate to say this is not, I live here. I love the city. It's not a reflection of Geneva, but there are people here that sort of game that. That was the number we came up with based on where we felt we needed to be. I still have to run trucks down every street every day, regardless if somebody puts something out or not. I still have to pay for those trucks, those drivers. So it just was as equitable as we thought we could be with that.
So you recoup some extra cost if people rent a cart. I mean, you're also taking on the wear and tear of the cart, providing the cart. So I guess
Well,
I can understand
yes.
that. It's just like, do many people rent carts for trash? It seems, it was a hard anyway, we could never see the value in it personally, and so I was just curious why there was that big
Well,
jump.
you just said it too, and you just made a great point that I should have mentioned too, which is we're providing a cart. If something happens to that cart, we're gonna replace it. We're not gonna charge for the cart. We might charge a delivery fee, but that's just to cover the cost of getting it out there. If somebody's using an old Rubbermaid can, those tend to break pretty easily. We're not gonna buy people new cans, we just can't do that, and those grabbers might get them a little bit too much. So those are sort of the ancillary reasons where there's maybe a little bit more reason to use subscription. Geneva is about 55% to 60% subscription. The rest is pay-as-you-throw. That's, we would love it if everyone had a cart, because it would give us more efficiency in terms of drivers not having to get out, and we wouldn't have to worry quite as much about free riders, but that's not what the city wants, and we want to be here, so we're just going to work on getting the current system as good as it can be. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not.
You absolutely did. My last question is just on the history of being pay-as-you-throw as opposed to just, say, requiring all residents that want to engage in refuse collection to subscribe and get a cart, which it sounds like has some advantages.
So the city code requires that everybody have trash service. So that would, if we went to a full toter program, that would be requiring every household to purchase a toter. And we had the discussion with the city council in 2018, thereabouts, before the last contract, as to whether or not that council at the time was interested in enforcing a full toter program, and there was not interest at that time.
Thank you, I'm good.
Person Mayor, I believe you wanted.
First of all, your truck drivers are great. They do a great job.
thank you.
Very, very impressed with Lakeshore. Second of all, I know you weren't able to give us like statistical breakdown of Geneva, but could you tell us if we're better than Batavia and St. Charles at least?
I won't believe anything you say.
Just, just those two.
Yes with an and, no with a but. No, I don't know much about Batavia. We did provide a bid with the last RFP that went out. I know that, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, it's public knowledge, they have a much, much higher rate of people that use pay-as-you-throw. So I would imagine that doesn't work in their advantage. Again, it's manageable here. We have about a 55–60% subscription, so that helps out here. St. Charles, this is Sophie's choice. I have to be very cautious because they're so.
We haven't voted yet.
Can I just say, that's true. Oh my gosh, that's so much leverage you have on me. No, this is such a used car salesman thing to say, but I really mean it. They're both first-rate municipalities. And Kevin, I could tell you probably, let's just, come on, stop being a politician. But no, everybody here, most people here want to do the right thing, and people are looking for ways to improve. Like Alderperson Ruby was talking about, we work to get better, and we'll figure out how. I'm being garrulous right now.
All right. I have more, so. You said that our garbage trucks go to Zion. How about, you mentioned back of the yards for a new recycling facility. Is that where our recycling goes?
No, we double handle the recycling. We're taking that stuff to, I believe, our Forest View facility, which we sort it sorts about 20 tons an hour, 18 to 20 tons an hour there. We built it in 2016, and that's one of the really high-level, very sophisticated facilities that we have. So that's where we would take it. If you ever drive down 55 into the city and you look to the left, you can see that facility. I would love it if you all would take me up on just to go and tour one of these facilities and see it firsthand.
Done.
Please. I would love it.
We're taking a bus now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there any opportunities where somebody throws aluminum cans into the garbage stream? Do those get picked up at all out of the garbage? Is there any reclaiming out of the
Yeah, we actually, I'm not sure where the number is now. I started here about 13 years ago. We merged with a company called RSI, which is a MRF down in the city, and we were sorting about 35 to 40% of recyclables out of the waste stream because, it's the right thing to do, but also it helps us. It helps with our biggest drivers, our biggest costs are disposal and labor. And so if we can pull that out of the disposal stream and recycle it, we're doing a good thing for the environment, but we're also, selfishly, we're saving money by not sending that to a landfill. So yes, we would make every effort to pull anything recyclable out of the garbage stream.
Okay, and then I heard a little bit about the recycling of electronics. How does that work specifically? Is it the same sticker that we would use?
Yes, the contract provides basically a quote from the vendor that X amount of stickers for a monitor, X amount of stickers for a small box. It even defines what's considered to be a small electronics or large electronics. And that was implemented in our last contract primarily to assist some of the more senior population in getting curbside electronics out to be recycled rather than burying them in the bottom of their garbage can or their recycling can. They couldn't get out to the countywide program.
And also batteries?
We currently collect dry cell batteries at no charge to the city at the Public Works facility. We have 2 bins inside our lobby. That was a complementary program in our current contract. But that was when we issued the contract, that was as an alternate, and there was no cost at that time, so the city adopted the dry cell battery collection. We use that same language in this contract, and this time there will be a cost, so that'll have to be evaluated.
Okay, and dry cell just means AAA, all of the normal batteries, but not your sump pump battery, right? Is that?
That's what the program calls for.
Okay. I feel like you just tried to trick me there.
Yeah, that's what the contract specifications call for, is dry cell batteries, alkaline
Okay,
primarily.
alkaline batteries, okay. But nothing for fluorescent lights yet?
Fluorescent lights can be recycled at several facilities, and there's information on the city's web pages where fluorescent lights as well as CFLs, if you still have any of those out there. And I would recommend, as long as I know this is being broadcast to millions, the city does a fantastic job of keeping our webpage up to date. We coordinate very closely with the county Office of Environmental Services, and they update their green guide on an annual basis. This is the first year they haven't printed one because it's green, so it's all electronic now. But we do have an active link on our city's webpage that if we don't take something, we can direct them to the county, and then they can access that information there directly.
I just worry that because it's not easy enough, convenient enough for people, that they're throwing it into their regular garbage. Do you find that in the garbage stream, that there's people throwing their batteries and fluorescent lights? I mean, fluorescent lights in particular seem very harmful to throw into the regular garbage.
Yeah, it's something we wrestle with. Fluorescent lights don't give me as much heartburn as lithium batteries. That's what really scares us and our drivers, because those things will just, and we'll have to pull over the truck on the side of the road and dump a load.
The other thing that I did also want to point out is that this contract does call for an increase in the household hazardous waste collection fee. We're increasing that fee from $3 to $4 per unit. And that is a program that is conducted with the county. We have an intergovernmental agreement with the county, and we can do curbside household hazardous waste collection for specifically those items, including batteries, lithium batteries. There are some protocols with the lithium batteries. You're supposed to tape them to prevent them from contacting other lithium batteries. And there are other, like enamel paint, can go through your regular garbage if you prep it by filling it with kitty litter or just letting it dry out, but household hazardous waste doesn't collect that. So again, all that information is on the city's webpage as to what we can and can't do, as well as the process for contacting to get that curbside collection. Not with Lakeshore, that is a completely independent contract outside of this contract, except they pay for it.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I'm sorry, thank you.
Sorry, one more quick question. The downtown pilot program, were those findings ever, I don't recall what they were. Do we have those findings of the downtown pilot program and the recycling?
We presented that to the city council last fall.
Okay.
After completing it, and the recommendation of staff was to add, I think, 4 additional carts with the gasketed tops, which has greatly reduced the amount of contaminants. It hasn't eliminated them, but it certainly has made it more challenging and intentional to get those items into
Sure.
the cans.
Okay, thank you.
So when you vote on this item tonight, it's the base program. But we would like direction on those 3 alternatives as to whether the council's interested in those, and we can bring those back separately. So there's basically kind of, Rich just needs direction on we already got the Sunday downtown collection direction. Curbside pay by use electronic recycling, that would just be part of the sticker program, so if that's something that seems okay. And then the dry cell battery collection would be a charge to the city. If that's something the council's interested, we can bring that back at a later date as far as cost. Okay. So tonight, we could probably include the electronic recycling since that's a sticker program and we have general consensus. So,
Alderperson Kilberg, I think, has a question.
Are we going to include a buyback program with that as well for stickers that have expired?
these are alternates that we bid. So what I'm asking for direction on are the alternate programs that we bid in the contract. As far as the other stuff, that's all part of negotiating the final transition.
So we're going to ask for that.
If I may, the buyback program is already in the current contract. It's already a requirement of Lakeshore, irregardless of whether or not the contract is issued to them again.
Okay. So there will be a buyback program, and that'll be announced to the community at some point in time.
That is in accordance with the contract.
Good. Thank you.
Steph, anybody?
It is a requirement of the current contract.
That Lakeshore buyback, Lakeshore stickers.
Correct.
Just one question for you, Stephanie, I have, if nobody else has questions. We got a lot of changes in this, like that food scrap program. Is that going to go up on our website pretty quickly?
Yeah, we will update the website, make sure that we have the correct information and all of the information and all of that. As soon as we have a contract, then we can do all of that.
That's fine. Any other questions, comments? We're going to take a roll call on this one, if we may, please.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Aye.
Paschke?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bowring?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Aye. Passes unanimously, 9-0. So it should be on the consent agenda, I think, at the next time. And now you've got your work cut off for you, huh, Rich? Okay. Thank you for the presentation and being here to answer all the questions. We do enjoy.
Really appreciate it. Let's time tonight.
And I will tell you this, I did get comments of how well your truck drivers do. Like, when they see stuff fall out on the road, they stop the truck and pick it up if it does. And, you know, I got the calls on that very early on from people who complained at the beginning with other waste contractors. So please pass it on. Yes, they do work hard, and we do appreciate the extra effort they go to.
I appreciate it. They're the lifeblood of the company, so I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We are at probably the most dangerous part always of the meeting, is public comment and new business. Start with the people here first. Does anyone have any public comment or new business to bring before the council? No? Anyone here at the dais? All right, hearing none, seeing none. The next item on agenda, I need a motion for adjournment. Alderperson Mayor makes the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned.